What's up guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to grow your arms. Now your arms are composed of numerous groups of muscles including the biceps, triceps, forearms, and all of the muscles in between. If you just want to learn the basics, then this is the video for you. Starting from the top, your biceps are composed of two heads, a short head making up the inner portion, and a long head making up the outer portion. Underneath each of these portions lies a third muscle known as the brachialis, which makes up the side of your arm. All three of these muscles perform elbow flexion, however only the long and short head can supinate the forearm. And since both of these heads originate on different parts of the scapula, they can actually be emphasized at different degrees of shoulder elevation. The short head is emphasized with your elbows placed in front of you during shoulder flexion, while the long head is emphasized with your elbows placed behind you during shoulder extension. This is due to the fact that the long head crosses the shoulder joint while the short head does not. Thus, in order to get the most out of your bicep training, it's important to choose exercises at varying degrees of shoulder elevation with both supinated and non-supinated grips to ensure that you're maximizing each muscle to its potential. I recommend choosing one where your shoulder is flexed and your elbows are in front of you to bias the short head, one where your shoulder is extended and your elbows are behind you to bias the long head, and one with a neutral or pronated grip where your elbows are beside you to bias the brachialis. So for example, if you're limited to just dumbbells, you may choose incline curls, preacher curls, and hammer curls. If you only have a barbell, you can do drag curls, cheek curls, and reverse curls. Or if you want to use cables, you can do Bayesian curls, kneeling curls, and rope hammer curls. These are just a few examples. Feel free to mix it up however you like in order to choose exercises that are best for you to progressively overload. To add these to your routine, I find it best to do 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 15 reps for each exercise for a total of 2 to 3 sessions per week. And since your biceps are already involved in most pulling exercises, including pull downs and rows, it wouldn't be a bad idea to train them at the end of your pull day. That way, your biceps are already warmed up and you're able to train them efficiently close to failure. Moving on to the next part of your upper arm, your triceps are composed of 3 heads, a long head on the back, a lateral head on the side, and a medial head on the bottom. Each of these heads performs elbow extension, however, you can actually emphasize each portion by changing the angle of your shoulder, since each head originates on different parts of both the humerus and the scapula. The lateral head can be emphasized at lower degrees of shoulder elevations where your elbows are extended beside you, while the medial head can be emphasized at shoulder elevations of around 90 degrees where your elbows are extended out in front of you. However, since both heads originate in the humerus, they often work together. The long head, on the other hand, originates on the scapula and actually crosses over the shoulder joint. Thus, it can be emphasized at greater degrees of shoulder elevation where your elbows are extended above you to produce the greatest stretch on the muscle, or lower degrees of shoulder elevations where your elbows are extended behind you to produce the greatest contraction. Thus, similar to your biceps, in order to get the most out of your tricep training, it's also important to choose exercises at varying degrees of shoulder elevation. I recommend choosing one where your elbows are above you and your arms are extended upwards to bias the long head, one where your elbows are in front of you and your arms are extended forward to bias the medial head, and one where your elbows are beside you and your arms are extended downward to bias the lateral head. So for example, if you're limited to just dumbbells, you may choose skull crushers, hex press, and dips. If you only have a barbell, you can do extensions, bench press, and push-ups. Or if you want to use cables, you can do push-aways, crossbody extensions, and push-downs. Personally, I like to do skull crushers, push-downs, and dips, but feel free to mix it up however you like in order to choose exercises that are best for you to progressively overload. To add these to your routine, I find it best to do 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 15 reps for each exercise for a total of 2 to 3 sessions per week. And since your triceps are already involved in most pushing movements, including bench press and shoulder press, it wouldn't be a bad idea to train them at the end of your push day. That way, your triceps are already warmed up and you're able to train them efficiently close to failure. Finally, onto the last part of your arm, your forearms are composed of 2 main sections, an anterior group of muscles making up the front of your lower arm, and a posterior group making up the back. Both groups consist of many smaller groups of muscles, each performing their own unique function. The anterior group consists of wrist flexors, which flex the wrist, finger flexors, which flex the fingers, and the pronator, which pronates the forearm. The posterior group consists of wrist extensors, which extend the wrist, finger extensors, which extend the fingers, the supinator, which supinates the forearm, and the brachioradialis, which bends the elbow. Similar to the brachialis, the brachioradialis cannot assist with supination, therefore it's much better emphasized with an overhand grip. As for the other muscles, only the wrist flexors and extensors are really worth training since all the others are targeted naturally throughout your workout. Thus, in order to get the most out of your forearm training, I recommend choosing one exercise that incorporates wrist flexion to bias the flexors of the anterior group, one that incorporates wrist extension to bias the extensors of the posterior group, and one that incorporates elbow flexion with an overhand grip to bias the brachioradialis. So for example, if your goal is simply to build muscle, your best selection of exercises is the wrist curl, wrist extension, and reverse curl. However, if you're more focused on improving grip strength, it's a much better idea to include isometrics such as towel holds, farmer's carries, and plate pinches, since these allow you to challenge all parts of your forearm in a static position. To add these to your routine, I find it best to do 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 20 reps for each exercise for a total of 1 to 2 sessions per week. And if you're doing isometric holds, start by choosing a weight you can hold for up to 30 seconds, and slowly increase that week by week until you can hold it for 45 seconds. Then increase the weight and repeat. And since your forearms are already involved in most upper body exercises, it wouldn't be a bad idea to train them at the end of either a push day or a pull day. That way, you aren't creating unnecessary grip fatigue in the beginning of your workout, and are able to train your forearms efficiently close to failure. And with that, we've explained the functions of all the muscles in your arm, including how to emphasize each portion and some of the exercises you can perform to do